holding his team together while they tried to provide care with no resources. The surgical team were not allowed in. The hospital was bombed while the World Health Organization team were there. The oxygen supply was bombed again. The windows and doors were blown out, so the cold winds and dust from rubble blew in. We saw photos of the view from the windows of Kamal Adwan Hospital. Rubble, burnt out buildings, armoured drones flying, huge crates of explosives marked danger placed around the hospital. We looked out the windows of our own hospitals and saw green fields and misty rain and our cars waiting to take us home to family and comfort. On December 27th, after 84 days of siege and attack, Dr Abu Safia was abducted by the Israeli army. He tried to negotiate with the attackers to protect his patients, and the photograph of him walking through the rubble in his white coat towards the tank will stay with me forever. The hospital was ordered to evacuate all staff and all patients and then set on fire. There are eyewitness reports of him having been stripped to his underwear in freezing temperatures that have resulted in the deaths of at least 7 newborn babies in Gaza, of him being beaten with a wire, of him being seen in the infamous Stay Tainem prison in Israel, bloodied and bruised. But in breach of the Geneva Convention, no one really knows where he is, and he hasn't been allowed to see a lawyer. His family, who are already mourning the death of his son, are now terrified that the same fate awaits him as was suffered by Dr Adnan al-Bursh and others. Dr al-Bursh was an orthopedic surgeon from Gaza who was abducted and illegally detained by the Israeli military and who died as a result of torture while in detention. Israel tortured Dr al-Bursh to death. But this is not new. Israel has been bombing Palestinian ambulances and killing Palestinian doctors for more than 20 years. Dr. Suleiman, a much respected man, known personally to some of my colleagues, and head of the Palestine Red Crescent Society Emergency Medical Service, was shot and killed in Jenin in March 2002. He was in an ambulance carrying an injured child when Israeli soldiers opened fire on it because it was driving at speed. They attacked an ambulance because it was driving at speed. Dr. al-Qudari, the director of a small hospital, died on March the 8th same year. He was shot dead by Israeli troops as he drove to a refugee camp near Bethlehem. Amnesty International said he had received permission from the local Israeli commander to pick up medical supplies at a hospital. He was allowed to pass the first checkpoint, but as he neared the camp, an Israeli tank opened fire and killed him. Israel has killed more than 1,000 healthcare workers in the last 15 months alone and are holding many hundreds in illegal detention. Those that remain free are working in unimaginable circumstances. Due to Israel's fuel blockade, a doctor has to decide which ventilator to run. The one keeping a 10-year-old boy alive, quadriplegic because his spinal cord was severed by a bullet from a sniper, or the one keeping a premature newborn baby alive, born early because of the bomb that injured her mother and killed her father and 4 siblings. Nurses have got used to new triage categories. 1/3 die in the ambulance, 1/3 die on the floor of the emergency room, and 1/3 die sometime later from wounds or infection or malnutrition. Dr Hussam Abu Safia is a man who has had greatness thrust upon him. He is a pediatrician who just wanted to help newborn babies, and he succeeded. Then Israel came for him because he is a doctor. Day after day, he stood in his hospital as it was destroyed around him, calling for the international community to help, to stop the killing, to save his hospital, to force Israel to allow food and water and medicine in. We failed him. We allowed Israel to extinguish the lights in the last hospital in northern Gaza. And we allowed Israel to take this man, who has become an icon to healthcare workers across the world, who believe in ethical principles, in justice, autonomy, in doing good, in not doing harm, and in standing by your patients, come what may. Dr. Abu Safia is one of the millions of Palestinian people who are being failed by the rest of the world. Let us not fail them anymore. Call on your professional body and your union to demand that your government acts to uphold international law, to stop Israel's genocide, and to free Dr. Hussam Abu Safia.
Thanks, Dr. Angie.